When you think of Bangkok, I highly doubt that temples are the first thing you'd think about. However, each year over 8 million people go to visit the Grand Palace, as well as many of the other temples and sites around Bangkok. As someone who's travelled Vietnam, Cambodia, seen Angkor Wat and some of the temples in northern Thailand, I think it would be safe to say that I had seen a lot of temples. And in the least offensive way, I was getting a little bit bored of them. But I have to say that these two places really took my breath away. Out of all the temples I've visited, these are easily two of the best. So I invite you to join me on a historic tour where I try and take as much of a cinematic aspect out of these beautifully aesthetic landscapes and buildings as I can on some of my last few days in Bangkok. I hope you enjoy. My first stop was Wat Arun. Having been travelling Asia for nearly 3 months, I honestly wasn't interested in visiting temples at all. But each time I took the Chao Phraya tourist boat, it caught my eye and I decided that I had to go there. Whilst a lot of temples do feel the same after a while, I have to say that this one stood out for its incredibly unique structure, attention to detail. As well, it had some beautifully manicured gardens in the surrounding areas. I took the Chao Phraya tourist boat to get there, which costs 30 baht each way. The ferry stops directly at Wat Arun, and I actually would say it's the easiest way to get there rather than walking or taking a car or a bike. As always, make sure you have the appropriate dress and bring cash to pay for the ticket. Now, I have to be honest and say I still don't understand a lot about Thai culture in terms of its history, why certain landmarks exist, and why they worship their given deities that they did in the past or today. However, something I can understand is poetry. Phra Apai Mani, sorry if I've mispronounced it, is a 30,000 line epic poem by Saint Phram Phu. It's a Thai epic and something I will probably read at some stage, and I'm not going to attempt to sum up the plot, but I thought I'd share a few lines. Put not your trust in any mortal, for their wiles are immeasurable. Even the most tortuous creepers around the hoariest tree are not as crooked as man's heart. True love among mortals is only to be found in the love of a father or mother. The only support you can rely upon is yourself, so you must be careful and wise, my boy. There is no better armor than knowledge. I spent many long hours at Wat Arun, a lot of which were either studying the structure, setting up nice compositions, or people watching. I loved seeing all of the beautiful girls taking photos in their traditional dress, either with their friends, family, or just by themselves. I also enjoyed observing the variety of different tourists, trying to work out where everyone was from. There were a lot of people there, which, to be honest, I really don't enjoy, but being able to wonder about people's backstories and what they're seeing or noticing at that specific place is very fascinating.
It's not straight. It's actually not straight. It's like crooked. It's crooked. It's not straight.
I headed back to my hostel via the tourist boat again, got some pad thai for dinner, and then retired early so I could get a good sleep before my big day at the Grand Palace. Now, the only way to start out a big day is with a coffee, so I stopped in at K Coffee near my hostel and got an iced mocha. This was fantastic. I had not been here before, and they also had a lovely little doggy. I actually walked through to the Grand Palace even though it was a little further from my hostel, and it was actually quite an enjoyable walk. However, I was quite disappointed when I got to the Grand Palace, because technically you are not basically allowed to do anything there other than take photos. You are not allowed microphones, gimbals, selfie sticks, wireless mics, tripods, zoom lenses, drones, or to take videos. The only one of these which I think is personally reasonable is drones. Unfortunately, I could not pull out my DSLR to get some cool shots, but obviously I had my iPhone 15 Pro, which I was going to use to take videos of everything because it doesn't say no phones. Now, this is by far the most expensive temple to visit. It is 500 baht a ticket, and I'm gonna be honest and say I didn't quite feel like it was worth it, but I am glad that I checked it out. When you enter, there's an entire series of murals along the wall which are being redone in places by, I'm guessing, very skilled and well selected artists, but my goodness, these murals are incredible. If I had more understanding of the stories behind them, I think I would have spent hours just staring at each particular piece. As I mentioned earlier, over 8 million people visit the Grand Palace each year, so there are going to be a lot of people around all the time, so don't expect to have lots of space to take your photos or for people to wait for you while you take your photos. At least 20,000 people visit each day, and the portion of those that care about you getting a nice photo is Something which really confused me was actually that there are 3 different areas of the palace you can walk around. There's actually a lot more to see than it initially looks like, and I almost missed an entire section even with a map. I honestly found navigating a bit difficult, so make sure you have seen everything before you leave. If you're unfamiliar with the history, this place has been the residence of the kings of Siam for almost 250 years. As you may expect, it's a pretty luxurious site. Fun fact of the day: the current king of Thailand is the wealthiest monarch in the world with an estimated net worth of between 30 and 70 billion US dollars. To me, that is more mind-blowing than any of the buildings and the architecture I saw. However, I have to say that I love the gardens because satisfying trees get me every time, as well as lots of whites and minimally designed spaces. Perhaps around this area in the second section you may even find enough space to take a few photos without people in them. Additionally, there are a few museums around the complex, and I ended up at a museum dedicated to Queen Sirikit, also known as the Mother of Thailand, and oh my goodness, what a fashion legend and amazing humanitarian and supporter of traditional Thai culture. I am so glad that I visited this place, and I have to say I think she's a woman that a lot more people in the Western world should know about, because from just the small part of her history that I got an insight into, I was in awe of her and many of the things she accomplished. I would definitely recommend visiting it while you're at the palace, particularly if you like fashion, because she was also quite on board with Bulman. After this, I walked back to my hostel, and I have to say I had a great couple of days visiting these 2 sites, even though the latter was particularly pricey. I think they are must visits in Bangkok, which is probably why the latter one is so expensive. At any rate, I hope you've enjoyed seeing these temples, and if you don't want to, you don't have to pay for them now because I kind of showed you what they look like, but if you want to go check them out yourself, feel free to, and I hope you'll subscribe to see the rest of my adventures around Bangkok. Thank you for watching, and doodles!